So a couple things from this week that I want to talk about. One of them being Reddit's new API fee. I guess if you want to just call it an API fee or just call it Reddit outright banning third-party developers from making Reddit apps. That's essentially what this is. I want to talk about one thing specifically from the Apple event, and no, it's not the Vision Pro, I promise. And another article I saw about Dell just being, I don't know, Dell. So all three of these articles are from Ars Technica. The first article was from Ron Amadio. Following Reddit's $20 million API fee, Apollo, the popular third-party Reddit app, has announced it will shut down on June 30th. Developer Christian Selig has criticized Reddit's new pricing, which stands at $12,000 for 50 million API requests, as unfeasible for developers, especially when compared to similar platforms like Imgur that start charging at $166 for the same amount. That's $166 for Imgur versus $12,000 for Reddit. Just think about that comparison there. This unexpected price surge and short notice of 1 month have led to a backlash from the developer community, with nearly 1,500 subreddits planning to protest by going dark on June 12th. Additionally, the cost of refunds for existing Apollo users could run up to $250,000, adding to the challenges for third-party apps under Reddit's new API pricing model. Good God almighty. Just to break this down, if that comparison wasn't enough, of the $166 that Imgur charges for 50 million API calls, Reddit is charging $12,000 for 50 million API calls. That seems like not a big number considering the huge number of API calls that it requires to reach that threshold, but I promise you, you make a lot more API calls than you think. Now, I asked ChatGPT to give me sort of a roundabout estimate on how many API calls we actually make on like a session viewing Reddit, and it says 10 pages each with 10 posts, and each post with 10 comments could easily sum up to 300 API calls. So just pretty much a quick browse of Reddit within a few minutes, you can rack up hundreds of API calls. Just giving you an idea that 50 million API calls for that many users is really not that much. That could be accomplished like that. Reddit's not outright saying, hey, you can't use our API anymore, but we're basically just going to price you out of it. And no existing or new company can, withstand those charges. It's just impossible. So I guess we'll see how that holds up, if Reddit holds up their end, or if they just scrap the whole thing, if a bunch of subreddits go dark and people just stop using their service. I've seen a lot of people already talking about they're going to be boycotting Reddit and just not using it because they only use the third-party apps, or maybe just using the browser and just not using the app anymore at all. I guess time will tell. So the next article is from Kevin Purdy. I actually like this article because it brings up a really cool thing from Apple's conference that not a lot of people are talking about, and it's not the Vision Pro, I promise. In a move that could revolutionize PC gaming on Mac, Apple unveiled a SteamOS-like Windows compatibility initiative at its conference recently. The initiative is called Bring Your Game to Mac, includes a game controller guide, a game porting toolkit for developers, and a converter that makes game shaders compatible with Apple's Metal hardware acceleration API. At the heart of the toolkit is CodeWeaver's open source code for crossover, used for Windows to Mac game translations. The toolkit's promise of an emulation environment for unmodified Windows games on Apple's silicon-based Macs, early indications show that popular games such as Cyberpunk 2077 and Diablo 4 can be ported effectively quickly. Early indications show that popular games such as Cyberpunk 2077 and Diablo 4 can be ported relatively quickly, albeit with performance limitations due to the power efficiency focused nature of the Mac M series chips. Nonetheless, this could be a huge step towards an active game ecosystem on Mac, which is pretty unheard of and a pretty big deal that they're really using open source tools on Mac to make things like playing Windows games easier. People with Macs can now play games on their Macs essentially and not have to worry about having a Mac and a PC going back and forth. They can use that nice Apple silicon that they paid a lot of money for to actually, squeeze a lot of the juice out of it. As you know, Macs are geared to the professional community. A lot of the features and things that they put into the Mac are very much focused on the professional side of things. But, as they power up their M series chips, they're starting to see the writing on the wall that, hey, these things can actually be legit gaming contenders now. Let's figure out a way to get some games running on these things. And, I think that's just a good idea. Other things from the conference were lame and whatnot. And, I tend to agree with you, but I like to give Apple their flowers whenever, they force me to. I do own some Apple products. I'm not a complete hater, but the fact that they're able to, take what you have existing and make it better, make it do more things is a W. So the next article I liked wasn't exactly like huge news, but I thought it was kind of funny, right? Dell's Australian subsidiary has been found guilty by the Australian Federal Court for misleading online customers into believing that they were getting a discount on monitors added to their purchase. It was revealed that these practices often resulted in customers paying more for the monitor than if they purchased it separately. The deceptive tactics occurred from August 2019 to December 2021 and resulted in over 5,300 monitors being sold, leading to customers to spend over 2 million Australian dollars, 1.33 million USD. Dell Australia has now required to provide full or partial refunds to affected customers and hire an independent compliance professional. This case serves as a reminder to shoppers to be vigilant about seemingly discounted prices online. Further penalties for Dell Australia, including potential fines, will be decided at a later date. I just found that interesting because I was kind of having this conversation with my wife the other day about her seeing sales online. Just see, is it a good price, shop it around, see if that price is comparable to other retailers online, and then make your purchase. Never just see that something says it's this many percent off, because 9 times out of 10, it's really just marked down to the going price, the MSRP at that very moment. It's just showing you maybe what it was listed at first when it came out, or an inflated version of the retail price. That article just made me want to put out like a little PSA just to remind everybody that the prices that you see online aren't necessarily always discounted. When you see that nice red mark over the Amazon retail price, and then you see that nice new red discounted percent off price, just take that with a grain of salt. Shop that product around, see what it's being offered at on other sites, and then make your purchase. Don't just assume that that sale is a legitimate sale and then just jump on it and buy it. Do your due diligence. But at the end of the day, everybody's trying to make a dollar, and they're not going to follow every rule to get that dollar from you. They're going to cut some corners and things like that, as we see here with huge companies like Dell. I know it's in Australia, but still. Oh, yeah, you're still here. I got to get back to work. That was my lunch break, but see you next time. Peace.